Hi, I'm Jim with Pour the Juice, and in this video, I decided that I would respond to a question I had on a recent video. And the question came from Patrick Muldowney, and he wanted to know how I choose the bottles that I buy, which I think is a great question, and probably came from me finally posting my whiskey collection behind me. And I wanted to answer that question. And if you've followed me for any amount of time, I try to answer any questions that pop up in my comment section. I try to respond to every single comment. And if I don't, I apologize that I missed it. But every single one I try to respond to, every question I try to respond to. And if it ever comes a time where I can't reach out to everybody who's left a comment, then I apologize. But I must be getting too popular for my own bridges at that point. Um, but Patrick asked me a question, and I started thinking about it, and I realized that I couldn't really answer. Oh, I could answer it in text form, but it would be long and convoluted, just like any time I speak. I figured that it would be better for a video, and I figured also that it's a pretty good video topic. How I decide to buy a bottle. And so I'm going to separate that question into two kind of separate answers because there's been two separate motivations for me buying bottles in my life. So I'm going to separate it into two time frames, actually. It's going to be BY and AY. And so that's going to be before YouTube and after YouTube. Because the whole YouTube thing gets in the way a lot of what bottles I buy and my motivation to buy it, as you can assume. I'll start with after YouTube then. So today, how I decide I'm going to buy a bottle usually comes down to whether I have access to something that I think would make great content, or do I have the money to buy that bottle? Because at the end of the day, having a whiskey-based YouTube channel, I'm putting out a decent amount of money to make the content, to get bottles that I think people would enjoy watching with content. I try to get bottles that I think are going to be a little popular or that are interesting for a specific video. And so that gets expensive. Unlike, most of what it seems like on YouTube for whiskey tubers. Most of those, whiskey tubers look like they just buy anything and everything. I don't have the ability to do that at this point in my life. So I do have to be a little bit strategic. I have to count my pennies for whatever I'm going to be purchasing. And so typically, if I'm going to be buying a bottle today, I'm going to be buying something that I know that I can make content on. Something that I think would be interesting to my audience, and something that I'll be able to use for future videos as well. So occasionally that doesn't happen. Occasionally I pick something up that I don't make a video on. I'm trying to look to see what recently I purchased that I've made videos for. But I guess that Old Fitz 7-year here. This is one that I just knew was going to be a popular bottle. I knew people wanted it. People wanted to hear about it. I was interested in it too, but I was almost certain that for the price, I could have gotten better whiskey. But I want to have it on my shelf, and I wanted to make a video about it, and I wanted to know for sure how good it was. So this would be an example of a bottle of whiskey that I purchased after YouTube. It's a lot of YouTube motivation for it. Now, cling, 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 cling. Before YouTube, things were different. So before YouTube, there was kind of two separate lives for me with whiskey at that point too. There was the just getting back into whiskey Jim. To give a little background, I was big into Scotch in my early 20s. I would bring home bottles to my dad, and we would try different stuff out. And we got to sampling a lot of decent Scotch back then. I got into bourbon a little bit, but I was mainly like a Jack Daniel's drinker. Um, so when I got back into whiskey, I don't know, 5 years ago or so, um, I was just trying to try everything. You know, I would research whiskey, I would watch videos on YouTube, and I would go out and try to find the bottles that I saw people talking about. So it's a lot like today, actually. But a lot of those at that time were the allocated stuff. It was the Buffalo Trace, the Tater bottles. Those are the ones I was really after because I wanted to know how good whiskey could get and if people were right about all these different bottles. Um, so I remember a goal of mine for a little while there when I was trying to find stuff was to find a bottle of E.H. Taylor. That was that was a goal. That I thought the bottle was so cool. I thought the marketing for it was so cool. Um, so yeah, I bought a lot because of that. And then I would say after that time frame, this would be for a solid chunk of the bottles that I purchased. I purchased because I've tried something from that same distillery that I know. Um, and so I think this next bottle will also be good. Or I've tried the same bottle and I see a single barrel and I'm interested in that. Or I've seen a video on YouTube where somebody who I think my palate aligns with um, says a bottle is good. And then I'll try to look for that bottle as well. But so a majority of the bottles that I bought in that time are going to be single barrels, just things that I think are interesting. Finished whiskeys. I fell in love with finished whiskeys, so I was buying anything finished I could find for a long time. And yeah, the bottles that were kind of hyped. And that's how I was started with all this. That's really what got me going. You know, there's some that I purchased that changed the way I look at things. For instance, Smoke Wagon Uncut Unfiltered had a ton of hype. I kept hearing from so many people that it was a great bottle of whiskey. That everybody needed to get their hands on them, and people were going crazy over Smoke Wagon. And so I bought a bottle, and I was very disappointed by it. Didn't think it matched up to the price at all. Just generally wasn't a fan. Still am not a fan of this bottle. And so that changed things for me. After that, I stopped taking everybody's YouTube videos at face value. And I figured I should probably go taste some more whiskey before I buy random bottles. So yeah, so I know there's some distilleries that I'm just going to always enjoy. There's some bottles, if I see them, I will always buy. I will always buy a Stag, just because I've never had a Stag I didn't like. Some are better than others, but they're all great. If I ever run out of Jack Daniels, I will buy another bottle of Jack Daniels. If I see anything new from Jack Daniels, I will buy Jack Daniels products forever. I love Jack Daniels. And pretty much the same for Buffalo Trace. If something is around from Buffalo Trace that I don't have, or even that I do have, and I think is a good price, I'll probably pick it up, just because I really enjoy the whiskey. Anything from New Riff, I will pick up if I see it. I'm always looking for the more limited options that they have. I don't really have access to many of them where I am, but if I see something like that, I grab them. Russell's LEs, Wild Turkey LEs, I pick up. But that's all just because I've tasted so many of those bottles, so many of those options from those distilleries, and I fell in love with them. And so I know moving forward, if something like that pops up, I'm probably going to enjoy it. And especially if it fits into my price point, I'm going to enjoy it. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you. What entices you to buy a bottle if you see it? If you don't have a plan on buying a specific bottle because of a video or something, how do you choose what bottles you purchase? I know a lot of people out there are always trying to try something new. They're going out and they're trying new craft distilleries and anything they can get their hands on, they want to try. And in all honesty, that's not me. I tend to like less craft distilleries than I do these kind of like big companies. in my experience. Now, I've tried a few and I enjoy them, so who knows? Yeah, but I'd love to hear how you make your choices. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe. And yeah, thanks for watching. Cheers.